Since the 2010s, the hobby of reviewing Godzilla toys has evolved. We went from sitting a figure down and just showing it move its arms and legs to showing figures that are more articulated how to do the most insane yoga pose. But now, not only has there been evolution, but de-evolution. And what I mean is, by the quality of those figures. What do you mean? Well, Bandai figures have kind of gone downhill. Not really horrible, but most of them aren't painted as they used to be. I mean, if you look at the 2010s, how Bandai figures were painted, they were painted a lot more competent than they are nowadays. Not saying that there aren't well-painted Bandai figures, but they're very lacking compared to how they used to be. And I do miss the old Bandai figures. Unfortunately, I was just a fetus when they were coming out, so I don't own many. But yeah. Now that the hobby's changing, it seems that more popular figures nowadays are SH Monsterarts. And of course, the new kid on the block, Hiya Toys. And with that, there's been ongoing debates on which figure is better, or line is better. Although I'm not making this video to talk about that because there's been plenty, and do I think one is better than the other? I think overall, yeah, but I do think one has also, I think they both have their pros and cons. And this video, I'm just going to be talking about SH Monsterarts and how they suck balls. I'm joking, actually. They're not really that bad, but, you know, they have their ups and downs. But I think there's been a lot of, complaining on both sides that we shouldn't complain too much. These figures suck so much. And then they go it's kind of like the old figure fights, you used to see on YouTube when they're fighting and they're just bashing each other like this. It's kind of like that, This is like, we shouldn't argue about this. I am a shitty-ass figure. Why would anyone want to buy me? I'm so bad. And then, they're just, fucking, doing shit. Yeah, it's just, it's annoying. But I have come here as your savior to be a defender of both sides. Because I think SH Monsterarts includes both sides of the coin. I am so funny, guys. You think I'm entertaining? Because I don't think I am, but that's besides the point. A lot of people complain and like to complain. It's the internet. Welcome to the internet, buddy.
Welcome to Fortnite.
People complain too much. Yeah, everyone does it. It's unfortunate, but it happens. There's things to complain about. And I do complain. I'm guilty of it. But there are several factors that I want to talk about because I feel like there are reasonable claims to be made.
Because I'm all out of...
So the first point that many people make is it's too expensive. Now, let's talk about when the line first began. That was around, 2012? And the first figure ever was like $68. Yeah, you don't see that now. You see figures that either cost $140, and the ones that are general releases are $70. The ones that are most money are premium Bandai, so that's annoying. But that's also got to do with the shipping. Most of these figures are shipping from Japan. If you don't know this, SH Monsterarts is primarily targeted towards Japan. So, they don't, release figures here that are just at normal standard price. I mean, if you were to go buy one and get it imported from Japan, the price that's probably, for example, if you go on, Zen Market, I've imported a few figures from there. You go from there, you'll probably see it at, Japan's price, but then you get the shipping, which is, $30 extra, so let's say you're paying for, a $60 figure, that's going to be, almost $100 you're paying for. So, even if you go on places like Big Bad Toy Store, that's basically shipping plus what the figure costs. But that applies to certain things. Premium Bandai figures are a lot of money. But I mean, I just look at my last review. That Godzilla Evolved figure is $140. And what a lot of people like to claim is, well, it's too expensive. Why am I going to buy this pile of shit? Well, then don't buy it. I think that's really the biggest thing you can make is go buy pay for something you actually need. Me, I am not paying the bills. I'm not getting bills to pay.
Money.
So I can just go and spend my money I want. Not that I should be spending all my money so I drain my bank account, because that's very misuse. It's a huge misuse of my, like, money. But, you know, I will buy a figure here and there. Not saying I'm going to buy the shitty ones, because I'll get to that later. They're very inconsistent. But, again, if it's too much money, then just simply don't buy it. Buy something cheaper. There are other options for you there. That being said, if you like the line and you want to save up, but you have stuff you gotta, you know, keep in the back of your head, then save up, buy something, wait a little bit. You know, don't have to keep buying this shit if it's too much money. That's the simple answer. That being said, I do think that they should be cheaper in a way. Although in this current economic state, I don't think that's financially possible. It isn't 2012 anymore. Money is going up, and it's probably going to continue to go up until, I don't know, I don't give a shit about the government like I just said, so something has to change there, but it's hard. It's not just like a figure thing. Prices are going up everywhere. So, yeah. Asking for things to be cheaper, unfortunately, could be possible in the future, but right now, just not really going to happen. Especially if you're importing stuff. That's just going to be a lot more money that you're spending there, unfortunately. And then a lot of people, including myself, I'm guilty of it, say, well, there should be more accessories. And I think there is a point to be made and a point that shouldn't be made. Figures like Shimo. I mean, the King Kong head's kind of stupid. I honestly would have rather just been Shimo herself, like, if that at that point. But even then, including literally just the frostbite blast, or in some Godzilla releases, a beam, I don't think would really up the price at all. I think at least give something in the package to make it worthwhile. I mean, I'm spending, like, Godzilla Evolves $140. You can't put a breath effect part in there. There was an event exclusive 1989 Godzilla. You can't put a breath effect part in there either. Doesn't make much sense to me. And it doesn't make much sense either because they used to make accessory packs a while back. They could have made an accessory pack for Godzilla X Kong. Did they? No. Instead, you have to buy every single figure in the line to have accessories for Kong. Kind of scummy, not gonna lie. Because what if I don't want to buy Shimo, or I don't want to buy Scar King, or I don't want to buy Kong and Tsuko? But I need them to get the parts for Kong. Not really cool. I don't understand that. So you're basically, to get Kong fully complete, and for example, Stephen Toys Reviews has covered this, you basically have to spend like $600. A lot of money. Which is kind of ridiculous. I'm sorry. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think it's very fair and kind of scummy. I might do a little as comparisons to Haya, but Haya released a separate Kong that has the Beast Glove. Why can't SH do this? Don't know. They have a lot more money than Haya. They have the abilities to do something different, but they choose not to. But yeah. Again, I think it all boils down to what you want to do with your money. But in all honesty, you're going to complain about being expensive, then just simply don't buy it. I didn't buy Iris, that was like $300. It's cool, not going to buy it. I'm probably not going to buy Shimo. That may change because I actually like that Shimo's kind of big. It's kind of stupid, but I like big figures, so. But I haven't really bought overly expensive figures, and now I'm just thinking about it. I'm kind of being a bit hypocritical there, because I did buy Biollante a while back, and I did buy Mecha King Ghidorah. But those are like two exceptions that I did. I didn't really waste money on anything else, because it's like almost $300 for both. Both are like $300. So, yeah. It's a little expensive. I mean, look at other companies can probably do it cheaper, but that's just simply how it is right now. Too expensive, just don't buy it. That's simply what I'm going to say there.
Yet! I gotta make sure you did it right!
So now we're going to talk about quality of the figure. and how I think there's a bit of false advertisement when it comes to SH Monsterarts. And you might be wondering, well, I know what the argument will be. The different kinds of figures that you get or someone else gets will not be the same. And to that, I say that is not right. I don't think that should be the case. I think every figure should have the same level of quality. And I think that's necessary with any line. Not just SH. This goes for any figure line ever. They should have the same quality type paint. It's not fair if I get good, my evolved figure doesn't have correct aligned eyes, but other people's figures do. That being said, he also has good teeth paint, but other figures don't. There should be a level of quality between each figure. And I think I'm going to talk about it, and I think this is the main problem, is that and this seems to be an issue with a lot of things nowadays, is quantity over quality. They release a heavy amount of figures each year. And I think when you do that, you start to have too many you can't really focus your attention on one figure. You rush to the next figure. You rush to the next figure. And I think that's a problem, because then you can't focus on having your quality for your figures up to standards. And I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I feel like that's an issue too, because I don't know. When I see SH, I feel like they're releasing a new figure. They're showing new figures there a lot of the time. A lot. And I don't think, because they do that, have a lot of time to focus on one figure, because they got to keep rushing products out over and over again, because they need these new things to be out so they can make more money. Which I get. I don't blame the people working on the figures. I don't think it's less of them. I mean, they could be being overworked. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised, but it's more around the higher-ups that could do something about it, but, they want to make money, so, and of course, these figures make money. People buy them. I made it clear before, their target audience is Japan and Eastern, people. They're not targeting the Western audiences. Any criticisms we have is not really, important to them, unless something's happening and people stop buying their figures in Japan. But again, I think the level of quality should stay consistent. If you're advertising a figure, for example, the -1 Godzilla, that's a huge one. The promotional pictures were beautiful. They looked great. And they fumbled the bag hard on the final product. And you might be wondering, well, you don't have it. Well, I saw my friend's figure in hand, and it is far from what was shown in the promotional pictures. And you see in-hand photos, and again, there's claims like, oh, not proper lighting and this and that, but I've seen them in proper lighting when people are actually putting them into light and showing off the figures, or you're looking at reviews. It just doesn't look like what we saw in the promotional pictures. We're like, well, that's just the prototype. It's not going to look the exact same. This looks exactly like the prototype. Some people may even claim it looks better. Now, again, arguing it's not in proper lighting. You can look up pictures. It's Godzilla 1995, the birth version. There's plenty of reviews about it. That figure looks great. They are capable of making figures that look like the prototypes. So if you're going to tell me, oh, well, it's not going to look the exact same, it can look, and it should look. Because when you have the box in hand, you know what pictures are on the front and are advertising on the box? The figure from the promotional pictures. It should look exactly like that. I mean, again, maybe not exactly, but it should look close enough and should have the same level of quality as the promotional pictures. I won't be talking about the prototypes when you go to like San Diego Comic-Con, those ones. Those ones, I understand, they have different whatever, but when you're promoting a figure, it should look like what they showed on the promotional pictures. That's just how I feel. I mean, if they're capable of making a figure like this, they should be totally capable of doing that. This figure is a perfect example of that. And there's even plenty of more. Biollante, the special colored version, even the original, Burning Godzilla, the original one. I mean, there are so many figures that I can call out. Kiryu is a great example. All the Kiryus are great examples. I don't own them, again. But I've seen, the photos of them. I've seen reviews. They look like great figures. So they are completely capable of making figures that not only look like what's seen in the promotional pictures, but sometimes even better than what are shown.
What the hell is that? I drew my mom. That looks nothing like her. Look.
Yeah, that looks nothing like me, dumbass.
Now this point is a bit of a hit or miss with people. It depends on how you feel, but I also think there's a good argument to this as well. Stylized figures. Oh, but it's stylized. I said this before. If it's stylized, it doesn't make it a bad figure. No, it does not. It depends on the paint quality and the joint tolerance, of course. You know, if, you know, Gigan, for example, 2004, is a stylized figure in a way. It's not accurate to what's seen in the movie. That being said, it's a great figure, both releases. The first one and the Decisive Battle version, which is the one I own. They both look great, and, you know, they are just good figures. I think everyone can agree that they're pretty good figures. That being said, there is an issue with a bit of stylization. If you're going to release multiple versions of this figure, such as Gigan, or you're going to do 2014 Godzilla, or as I'm just mentioned, Shin Godzilla, there needs to be a time to do something a little bit different, because Shin Godzilla sculpt is flawed. Like, literally flawed. The mouth can't close all the way. The teeth look atrocious. They look fucking awful. And the eyes are always painted wrong. It just does not look accurate. We might be wondering, well, again, if it was painted good, I guess you could say, well, that's not a big problem. Except, we're going to talk about a figure here. Gamera 1999 Kyoto Battle version. You know what they did for this figure? They changed the sculpt of the head. The first Gamera 1999's head was arguably really bad, and the teeth paint was painted awful. Now we have the repaint, which also has a re-sculpted head on top of it. So if you're capable of re-sculpting a figure, why not do it for Shin Godzilla? And why not do it for the horrible head sculpt of your MonsterVerse Godzilla? Again, if they were painted good, maybe I could be getting around it. If it was a one-off thing, okay. If you were like, this is stylized, this is a stylized version, okay. But even with Shin Godzilla, they advertise it as the, like, people behind the movie came and saw over the figure. Why does it not look like what's on screen? Why does the sculpt look bad? It doesn't look good. The mouth doesn't close all the way. You always paint the teeth really bad, and the eyes never look in the right direction. And they're fully capable of changing it. It's the one thing that disappointed me about the Night Combat Shin Godzilla, is that they didn't change the head sculpt. Because other than that, I actually really like that figure. It's a really good figure. I think what works for it and makes it a lot easier is its translucent plastic that they use. The red plastic and then painting black on it, I think that really makes the figure look good and looks like Shin. I don't know. It just looks good from that, and I think that's one of their best Shin Godzilla releases. I don't own the rest, and I'm not looking forward to getting, or I don't think I'm going to get the monochromatic version, because I just looked at it, saw it, like, unboxings, the lack of paint on it, and just them reusing the same old sculpt that we've already seen. I'm not really interested. So, that's that. Again, you know, there's also the MonsterVerse, you know, Godzilla x Kong line with the stylized figures. Godzilla looks accurate, and then Scar King and Shimo are just, like, odd. Scar King is actually taller than both Godzilla and Kong, which is not accurate. And again, it's stylized, but, you know, Shimo doesn't look that great. I mean, again, I maybe have to see in-hand photos. I think I said this before. If I see in-hand photos and it looks different, okay. But it just doesn't look appealing to me. Besides the big size of it. I actually like, it's really stupid. I like the size of it. But again, I think it's okay to have stylized figures. I mean, if you look at the first Godzilla 2000 release, that was stylized. That was like the Yuji Sakai sculpt. And now they're actually making one that is that's from Godzilla vs. Mechaguirus, so that one looks accurate, more accurate. So I think there's room. If they want to make stylized figures, that's okay. But I think more people maybe want, you know, the ones from the movies that actually look like the ones from the movies, but we're not their target audience again. So maybe that's Japan doesn't really care. Maybe that's the case. But again, I think stylized figures is a hit and miss. You either like it or you don't, and I think there's also like some really weird, odd choices that they decide to do, especially with that Gamera figure. Why change the sculpt when you know it's inaccurate, and then don't do it for other figures that are inaccurate? That's just what I'm going to say there. Alright, and this is a final point, and I've been kind of talking about it, is the lack of communication. Now, I want you guys to know this, and I've been repeating it over and over again. SH's target audience is not us, not the Western people. They don't give two shits about us right at the moment. I mean, there is Articulation Series, which has communicated has talked with them. But as a broader audience, I feel like they don't really engage with us consumers on the Western front, because we're not as important. And it's unfortunate, because Haya does it, and I kind of wish they did the same, because they can make really good figures. Fantastic figures at that. And they just don't really communicate with us at all. And I know what a lot of people say. It's like, oh, they're a company. We shouldn't bother them about a figure not looking great. But I'm paying like a lot of money for these figures. And I think that's something that people don't really talk about, is these figures aren't cheap. And I talked about before, if it's a lot of money, then don't buy it. But if you want to buy them, like if a figure looks genuinely good on the promotional pictures and then the product is bad, and what about the people who don't watch videos? What are the people who see it in stores, or people who just buy it because they like how it looks in the promotional pictures, and then the product they get looks bad and not like what they were advertised of getting? When you're going to buy a figure, you know what pictures they showed? The promotional pictures. This is what we assume we're getting when we buy it. People who don't have the internet don't go on Twitter. Thank God if you don't go on Twitter, you're a fucking saint. But like people who don't go on social media to look at the in-hand photos or reviews of the figures, and rather just, buy it because they like, oh, the promotional pictures look good, and they get a figure that doesn't look great. How is that fair to them? They're paying a lot of money for these things. And it's not really fair when you're spending like $140 and your figure is falling apart, has shit paint on the face, doesn't look appealing, so then I have to go out of my way to paint it if I want to, or return it, which sometimes can be a pain, because it's also an imported figure, and that's not easy to just simply return. And SH figures have broke. And I'm not saying the same thing doesn't happen with other figures. I think it should be a standard with all companies. But, again, they're a lot of money. If they're a lot of money, their quality should be good. I think that's just how I feel. And, when you try talking to them, or just simply criticizing, not attacking them. I don't support that, being like, oh, they fucking suck. They gave me this $140 figure, and it falls apart. It sucks. That's no, that's not the way of, if you're just genuinely, the paint, I think, should be better on this. It's a bit sloppy. The eyes aren't correctly placed. I think there should be some retooling or reworking on that part, or some retooling on articulation. I think that should be totally fine. And then I know also people will be like, well, everything gets criticized. I think SH has been getting hate has been getting too much hate. It's bad. There was always, criticism to SH Monsterarts, even before now. It's definitely gotten a lot more. But even back in the day, there was criticism. All the way back in 2014, when those figures were getting released. There was criticisms. And they're still, kind of doing the same things. And that's the other thing. Haya has been, doing figures for 3 years. SH has been doing figures for a decade. And there's a lack of change, really. And it's kind of weird. And I know this is stupid. It's figures. It's toys. Why are you making a big deal about it? It's I honestly just like to talk about it because it's interesting to me. I want to be a sculptor when I'm older. That's something I think about doing. And when you're a sculptor, it's important, like, I think even the smallest details on a figure is important to get. You want to capture the look of what something looks like on screen. Because people like that. People like to do that, you know? You get an accurate figure. You get a cool-looking figure that looks like it just hopped out of the screen. And, you know, just take some cool pictures with it. Do what you want. Make stop motions with it. People don't want a figure that is going to fall apart. That is not going to be cooperative. That doesn't work well in stop motion. Just doesn't look like what you were promised. You know, people don't want that. Most people don't want that, you know? So if there's going to be flaws, I think it's necessary to come out and say that about these flaws. I don't think it's right to be like, oh, but it's just 1 or 2 problems. It's not a big deal. You're paying a lot of money. If it's a $20 figure, okay. It's $140, dude. If there's like there should not be. If there's 1 issue, okay. If there's 2 issues and it's like $80, okay. I spent $140 on Godzilla Evolved, and I like the figure. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate it. But literally, the thing was fucking falling apart when I'm trying to like do articulation, and the eyes are fucked up. That being said, I still like the figure though. I don't hate it. I actually think it's one of their better Monsterverse figures. But again, it shouldn't be falling apart like that. I shouldn't have to do maintenance on it. But again, you can communicate that to them and they won't really talk to you about it. So that's basically it on that front. So in conclusion, I think overall, SH Monsterarts is just very inconsistent, and they always been. They'll either release gold, like this. I'll come closer. I mean, again, it's not proper lighting. I can't really say this figure looks great in proper lighting. But this, again, birth version, 1995 Godzilla. And then we have a figure here I reviewed recently, Jet Jaguar, who looks nothing like he does in the movie. And by the way, they advertised it as being the one from Godzilla vs. Megalon. Doesn't look anything like him. Not only that, he's very just like, uses old engineering. And, you know, has really like not the best articulation ever. It's not horrible, but like you'd think for Jet he'd have like the best articulation in the line, and he doesn't. And the head fucking falls off too, so that's just, I don't hate this figure, but I don't think they're one of their worst, honestly. Really not a home run. And that's really just after making Godzilla like 1974, I think. Was it? 72? Whatever, the Godzilla vs. Gigan, that one. That one was a good figure. But again, I just think overall they're very inconsistent, and I think it should be fair to criticize them. Do I think it should be fair to just be like, yeah, they suck, I hate them so much? No. But there's a right to critique and to be critiquing, and I don't think we should just simply be like, oh, there's 2 flaws, it's okay. Because then when you just let that happen, then the company's like, oh, well, I can just do whatever I want then. I could just throw shit at the wall, and they'll be like, yeah, I'll buy that. I guess. I mean, you know, I don't want that to be an issue, you know? I don't want it to be like, oh, it's okay if it's like this. Okay, so then we're just gonna keep buying these figures so then they don't have to keep, like, try when making new products. That's just how I feel. But yeah, you know, again, if you have, like, your critiques, it's okay. Don't go blindly hating. Don't join the train of, oh, High is better than SH Monsterarts, because that's just stupid. It's annoying. I'm tired of hearing it. You know, I'm guilty of it. But, you know, I do think Haya is better. But I think one thing that SH definitely has over the edge is articulation. I think Haya needs to get that out of the way, because the thing I like about SH Monsterarts is you can pose a shit ton of them. You'll pose them in so many different things most of the time. You can't really do that with Haya. Like, with my Monsterverse Godzilla, you can barely do anything. It's like, they're too stiff. They feel like big NECA figures, and it's just like, I don't really want that. I want to be able to pose my Godzilla doing cool shit. You know? You can't really do that with Haya. But I think they're upping their game with articulation, so we'll see. But again, they're around, get them if you don't want to buy SH figures anymore. And that's what a lot of people are doing. And you have the right to spend your money where you want to spend it. But I think there's also fairness in critiquing them because they are capable of doing great figures, fantastic figures, and they've been releasing duds. I don't think that's not a great standard, and this goes for a lot of companies. So that's how I feel. Am I going to jump on the hate train and be like, yeah, high is better? Probably not. I'm not going to really say. I mean, I think high is better. I do. But I'm just not going to be like jumping on the hate train and being like, yeah, SH sucks. Because, you know, I've been buying a lot of their figures. They've released bangers, like great figures, I think. I don't think it's really fair that we got to be like, you know, they suck entirely. Because no, they have the capability of making good figures. So that's that. If you disagree, totally fair. But to be honest, I think I'm right and you're wrong. So bye. Get out of here.